I've spent the last 60 years working on lawns from the time I was 11. And over that time, you start to see exactly what makes a difference and what doesn't. Not the trends or the newest products, just a handful of things that consistently lead to a healthier, better looking lawn. I'm going to share the most important lawn care lessons that I've learned after a lifetime of landscaping. Many people think you need to aerate and dethatch your lawn every year, but that is really just treating a symptom rather than fixing the real problem. Here's what you should really be paying attention to eliminate all that work every year. So the reason people dethatch is you end up with this layer of decomposing organic matter, basically, old lawn and roots and stuff like that, and it impedes the exchange of air and water over time, and you really build that up relatively quickly if you're using only synthetic fertilizer. And so then people go in and dethatch. Well, that's not necessary. If you have healthy soil full of life, that life in the soil will break down that organic matter and essentially eat it. That's simplifying what it does, and does away with that thatch layer. Aeration is used to slightly soften the soil and more porous for water to go through. If you're building your soil with life, then that life in the soil will aerate the soil. And you don't need to do physical aeration, you can do biological aeration. If your soil is healthy and doing its job properly, you shouldn't need to fix it. But that brings up another part of lawn care that affects your lawn every single day: watering. And believe it or not, there is a right and a wrong time to do it. So the wrong time to do it is late at night. If you have any problems at all with fungal disease, then this is the wrong time to water, because then that water just sits around all night. And that makes your landscape and your lawn very subject to fungal disease. The best time to water is either right before the sun comes up, or while the sun is coming up, or just barely after the sun is coming up. We want to minimize loss of water due to evaporation. So if we're watering just before the sun comes up, you know, most of it is hanging around and soaking in. And then we want the sun to come up, because we want it to dry everything up, and we don't want that water standing around, because that's when it's subject to fungal disease. Now, some people might have so many valves, the only way to get through all of them is to start at a time that isn't the best. Getting the timing right is a great start with watering, but there's another part of watering that really determines whether the watering is helping your lawn or quietly creating problems. The quality of the irrigation system is so important, and quality is determined by complete double coverage. We want heads of one sprinkler spraying to the head, not to the spray of the next sprinklers. And in addition to that double coverage is if it's even. You don't want to have uneven application of water. That's why you don't use different kinds of nozzles on the same valve. And so if you don't have even coverage, you could conceivably have too much water in one spot and not enough water in another spot. So kind of the worst of all worlds. And along with that goes with looking at what kind of sun you're getting, and so how to separate your valves based on, you know, you don't want one valve watering the shady parts and the sunny parts, because they need different amounts of water. So you would want to separate your valves based on exposure. Even people who water consistently still tend to miss one important detail, and it can completely change how effective your watering is. So when it's hot, people tend to want to water every day. Sometimes that's appropriate, but you should keep in mind your overall goal, which is to water deeply and as infrequently as possible. And that's a little bit difficult to determine, especially if you have heavy, compacted soil. It can be difficult because after just a minute or two, the water could start running off. Along the way, you might have completely different watering. When you plant seed, you don't do deep infrequent watering. You water 3 or 4 times a day to keep that seed moist. The deep infrequent watering comes later on when you have an established lawn, and infrequent is a matter of semantics. Infrequent could be every other day. So a trick I have that works great with either heavy clay soil or just any kind of compacted soil is at least a once-a-month application of some kind of soil penetrant or compost tea, or our product, which is a convenient shortcut to compost tea called Penetrate Liquid Biotiller. Really incredible how much it helps to break down soil, make it more porous, make it more accepting of water, make it much more possible to accomplish our goal of deep, infrequent watering. If you're still watering your lawn every single day and hoping for the best, hit subscribe. Chip and I will provide you with everything you need to know to have a beautiful, healthy, and functional garden. It is free. A lot of you spend your time trying to kill weeds, when weeds are frequently a sign of a bigger issue underneath. Fix that issue and your lawn starts to become a lot easier to manage. First of all, we want to try to build that soil with a lot of good complex life. Then we want to create lawn that is completely dense and strong and tough and almost impenetrable. We can't get weed seeds in there. We've got a lot of shade because the turf is so healthy with the blades, and there's not anywhere for weeds to grow. You've probably noticed weeds develop usually when you have a weak lawn. So the best way to get a healthy, strong lawn is to follow all tips that we have in this video. Now, if you do get weed infestations, there are some of the least toxic products that you can start with. One that I've been using recently that's an interesting one is iron-based. The one I can remember the name of is Captain Jack's Lawn Weed Brew. If your lawn is starting to look thin, tired, or patchy, there's a simple way to bring it back to life. The important part is knowing the right time to do it. It's not unusual to go through a summer and then see that your lawn looks bedraggled because it just had to persevere through some pretty hot temperatures. Fall overseeding is a great way to revive and rejuvenate cool season grasses. You would want to do it when the weather is still warm enough to germinate seed. In my area, it's late September and through late October, but it varies depending on where you are in the country. And you would overseed with the same kind of lawn that you have. And you would follow all the necessary procedures for overseeding, a heavy seed rate, some type of top dress mulch, products like ours to speed up germination of the seed, and then proper watering to keep that seed moist when the sun is out during the day. Different grasses and types grow and recover at different times of the year, which is why the best time to refresh one lawn is completely wrong for another. So for warm season grass, you can overseed it in the fall, and that would only be if you want it to be green through the winter. But you can't plant that warm season grass in the fall. You'd have to overseed with something different that grows in the fall and the winter. But if you want to use the overseeding at the time of the year for rejuvenating your warm season lawn, then you would do that in spring. Grasses like Bermuda, let's say we want to reseed with an improved Bermuda, then we wait in our area till about April 1 when Bermuda will germinate, and we plant seed. Everyone knows they need to mow their lawn regularly, but there's one small change that most people overlook that can turn mowing into the most important part of nourishing your soil and your lawn. Let me explain. Most people collect their lawn clippings and throw them in the trash. What we're saying is you don't collect it. You leave it on your lawn, and you leave it cut up in a way that it's good for your lawn. Not a big pile of lawn, that'll burn your lawn, but finely chopped up pieces of each blade is actually a mulch for your lawn. That's what we're after here. Mulching mowing is really excellent, and more people should do it. Those kinds of mowers are readily available, and that means it mows in a way that it chops that grass up that you can just leave it on there, and then it breaks down. It's like mulch, it's like compost. It feeds the lawn, it feeds the soil. It is almost a miracle. Most people mow their lawn based on appearance alone, but the height you cut your grass has a big impact on how healthy and resilient your lawn becomes. Burning, weakening the lawn to a degree that now you have weak spots where weeds can come in. All of these things can be caused by improper mowing. So the proper mowing is an important part of keeping that lawn healthy, being able to resist weeds, being strong and dense. So So if you want it to be nice and green every time you mow, you got to pick the right height to mow at. And that height, whether you have cool season or warm season grass, is never mow more than 1/3 of the length of the blades of the lawn in any one mowing. It's a good guide to go by. What helps one type of lawn thrive in summer can actually hurt another because different grasses respond very differently once the heat sets in. For cool season grass, you want to focus on mowing it high. You can even go up to 4 inches high. That does a great job of shading the roots and allowing that lawn to tolerate heat as much as possible. That's how we compensate for really high temperatures, is by mowing the lawn higher if it's a cool season grass. That's not effective if it's a warm season grass. Warm season grasses pretty much like heat, and so you don't have to be so worried about creating shade and shading the roots. There is a limit to how low you want to go, but like a Bermuda lawn, you can go down to 1.5 inches. And I like mowing Bermuda lawns as low as 1.5 inches because many weeds can't tolerate constant low mowing. And so I like that on warm season grass. You can't use that same philosophy with cool season grass though, because it'll burn up, it'll get weak, it'll die in spots if you mow it that low in the summer. Most lawn products only focus on what you can see above the surface, but long-term lawn health really starts much deeper than that. Okay, this is my Lollapalooza of points, right, Chip? This is our best point. I like to take every opportunity to feed the lawn to also have that opportunity to feed the soil, because it's the soil that can make that lawn as healthy and dense as possible and make that lawn not get pest and disease. People complain to me all the time about fungal disease. Well, that's most likely because the soil has not been fed properly with more powerful fungi than the fungus that invades the turf and causes big brown spots. All of our points are related to this idea of feeding the soil every time you feed your lawn. And that's the case with what I think is the best product I've ever used for that. That's our Nourish Biosol, which feeds plants and lawn at the same time and creates a lawn much more resistant to any kind of disease and much healthier in terms of the green color and the denseness and the ability to fight off weeds. If you follow these lawn care tips, then you're already ahead of most gardeners. A lot of people make simple landscaping mistakes that can damage their soil and their plants over time. Chip and I put together a video breaking down the most common mulch mistakes we see and how to avoid them. Click on the screen right here and we will help you keep the rest of your landscape just as healthy as your lawn.